You ever wonder why your high school French class was just repeat, 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 while your friend's class was all about, sharing personal stories? Well, it's all about one fundamental question. How do we actually learn a language? And believe it or not, the answer to that question has created two totally different worlds in language education. Today, we're going to explore both. So, let me ask you this. When you think about learning a new language, what's your mental picture? Are you kind of like an architect, carefully building a machine piece by piece? Or are you more of a gardener, nurturing a plant and trusting that it'll grow? This one question, this simple metaphor, is pretty much the key that unlocks the two great philosophies of language teaching. Okay, so on one side, you've got behaviorism. Think of psychologists like B.F. Skinner. For them, language is that machine we talked about. It's built from a set of learned habits. But on the other side, you have humanism, which is influenced by thinkers like Abraham Maslow. And for them, language is more like a garden of personal expression. I mean, these two ideas could not be more different, and they lead to two completely different experiences in the classroom. All right, first up, let's walk down the path of the architect. This is the world of behaviorism, where language is something you build, brick by brick, not something you grow. So at the very heart of this behaviorist theory is a really simple but powerful loop. First, you've got a stimulus. Say the teacher asks a question. Then comes the response. The student gives an answer. And finally, the key part. Reinforcement. The teacher says that's right, or good job. And this cycle, when you repeat it over and over and over again, well, that's how habits are formed. Yeah, the principles here are super clear. It really all boils down to one thing: habit formation. If you get something right, you get positive reinforcement. But if you make a mistake, it gets corrected immediately, bam, to stop bad habits from ever taking root. And who's at the center of all this? The teacher. They're like the director of this whole operation, this learning machine. Now, the best example of behaviorism in action is probably the audiolingual method, or ALM for short. If you've ever sat in a language lab with headphones on, just repeating phrases again and again, yep, you've experienced ALM. The goal at first isn't really deep understanding. It's all about achieving perfect automatic repetition. You can almost hear it in your head, can't you? This kind of call and response drill is the absolute signature of ALM. It's all about building what you might call linguistic muscle memory, so that the correct sentence structure just becomes second nature. And hey, it's actually incredibly effective for getting pronunciation and accuracy down, but maybe not so great for having a spontaneous chat. Okay, let's look at another method that comes from these same behaviorist roots, but with a pretty cool twist. It's called total physical response, or TPR. And here, your body does the talking long before your mouth does. It's simple, really. The teacher says, stand up, and you stand up. Open the door, and you open it. You're just listening and acting way before anyone asks you to say a single word. And the absolute genius of this is how much it lowers anxiety. There's zero pressure to perform, which makes it, perfect for total beginners and especially for kids. Okay, so let's leave that world of architects and drills behind for a minute and walk a completely different path. This next one shifts the entire focus away from external habits and looks at the learner's inner world. You guessed it, this is the path of the gardener. So these humanistic approaches, they really came about as a direct reaction against all those mechanical, drill-based methods. The central idea is actually pretty simple. You just can't learn effectively if you're feeling anxious or scared or disrespected. Learning really only thrives when you feel safe, motivated, and confident. A great example of this is a method called Suggestopedia. The whole goal is to make the learner more receptive, or, suggestible, to the new language. And how do they do that? By creating an environment of total and complete relaxation. I want you to just picture this. A classroom with comfy chairs, soft lighting, maybe some calming music playing in the background. The teacher has this really encouraging, positive vibe. It sounds less like a language class and more like a wellness retreat, right? And that's exactly the point. It's all about removing fear from the equation. And now for something that is, honestly, one of the most radical ideas in all language teaching. It's called the silent way. Yeah, the name gives you a pretty big hint, but the reality is even more surprising. The teacher is almost entirely silent. They put the power of discovery completely in the hands of the students. I mean, this is where the teacher's role gets completely flipped on its head. Forget about long grammar explanations. In this method, the teacher might just point to a colored rod or make a simple gesture. It's totally up to the students to become language detectives and solve the puzzle together. And what's the result of all this silence? Well, students develop real autonomy and amazing problem-solving skills. I mean, think about it. When you discover a rule for yourself, you understand it on a much, much deeper level than if someone had just handed you the answer. All right, let's move on to our final humanistic method, which is called community language learning, or CLL. And here, the metaphor shifts one more time. The classroom isn't just a classroom, it's a support group. And the teacher, they act as a counselor. In a CLL classroom, emotional safety is absolutely everything. Students will often sit in a circle. And get this, at first they might even say what they want to say in their own native language. The teacher then, acting like a counselor, comes up behind them and quietly helps translate that thought into the new language. It's all about building that trust and that sense of community before anything else. So there you have it. We've walked down two completely different paths, the structured, straight highway of the architect and the winding, organic trail of the gardener. Now let's put them right next to each other and really see the contrast. And this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one hand, behaviorism is all about accuracy, with a teacher who is in complete control. On the other hand, humanism is all about the learner's feelings, with a teacher who acts more like a guide. It's a fundamental difference in how you view the learner and what you believe they need to succeed. But here's the most important takeaway. This isn't about one being right and the other being wrong. Not at all. Think of it this way. Drills can help perfect your pronunciation, for sure. But it's that supportive environment that gives you the courage to actually use the language with another person. You really do need both accuracy and confidence to get anywhere. So, where does all this leave us today? Well, in the modern classroom, the absolute best teachers, they don't just pick one path and stick to it. They have a map of both. They know exactly when it's time to take that direct highway and when it's better to wander down the scenic trail. A truly effective modern teacher has a full toolkit. They know when to be the architect, running a quick focus drill on a tricky verb that everyone's struggling with. But they also know when to be the gardener, creating a safe, low-stakes space where students can just have a conversation and try to express themselves, mistakes and all. And really, this is the final thought I want to leave you with. Great teaching isn't a choice between habits or heart. It's about blending them. It's about combining the precision of those behavioral practices with the empathy and support of humanistic care. Because that's how you help a whole person become a truly confident, capable speaker.